I just was reading a column by one of my colleagues. He is Tom Tradip, who's been on our show before. He's one of the executives here at the Salem Radio Network. He's vice president of news and talk programming. And he wrote a piece called just that, Liberation Day in Georgia. And of course, there's a lot of nervousness about what's happening in the state of Georgia. As Tom reminds us in his column today at townhall.com, which we're posting at mikeonline.com, Brian Kemp signed an executive order allowing barbershops, hair salons, movie theaters, and bowling alleys to reopen today. Note that word, allow. He didn't order businesses to reopen. Weird concept. He simply eased restrictions imposed. Predictable result? Well, snarling dogs, from what we laughingly refer to as journalism in America, went all howler monkey on him. Reporters on TV standing out in the street by themselves, but wearing masks, and standing in cornfields in Iowa by themselves, but wearing masks, attacked and ridiculed Kemp for exercising his gubernatorial judgment on behalf of Georgia's citizenry. Did you see the picture of the person in the House of Representatives that had like a tan, weird makeshift face mask around the top half of his face? It was like it only covered his nose. It kind of looked like he was using his wife's pantyhose and kind of wrapping it around partially the top part of his face. Clearly not the way you're supposed to wear a face mask. I love it when I see people, if I'm out and about, I see people by themselves in a car with a mask on in the car by themselves and gloves. I do believe the mask is a good idea when you're around other people. I'm not sure the mask is a good idea if you're by yourself with the windows closed and the air conditioning going inside your car. You might be missing the point. I'm just gonna go out on the limb here and say you might not be doing it right. I heard Sean Hannity last night say, we're going to get ready to go back to football games, baseball games. One of these days, he goes, I'd be in favor of temperature gauges at all the entrances where people can have their foreheads, have your temperature taken. If you have a fever, you won't be allowed to go into the game. That's always confused me because we know a carrier of the coronavirus can be asymptomatic. The heck does it matter if you have a fever now? What if you're just hot? What if you just huffed and puffed your way up? I mean, come on. We're going to have temperature gauges at every entrance to watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play? Incidentally, this is the year, I've moved to Tampa just in time. I may have to become a Tom Brady fan. I'm sorry. I mean, I've always respected him. I know them's fighting words to Eric Hansen over there flying the plane today. But, I mean, Gronkowski's back, right? So now and they had the draft last night. Not really a time to do a lot of football, but hey, I may just have to, saddle up to Captain Matt over here in Tampa and see if he'll let me sit in his big, beautiful skybox over there at the stadium. Anyway, I digress. Sean's suggestion was, well, I'd be okay if we had everybody take their temperatures at the entrances, and we'll all sit there with masks and gloves on. Is that what our future holds? Are people going to be wearing masks all the time, everywhere? I'm not saying that with any alarmism or even agreement or disagreement. I'm just wondering, is that what we're going to look like? We're going to be sitting together at a football game wearing masks? How are you going to eat the popcorn? How do you eat a hot dog with a mask on? But this governor's decision in Georgia is definitely not being received well by some very important people, including the man himself, President Trump.
I want the states to open more than he does, much more than he does. But I didn't like to see spas at this early stage, nor did the doctors. Is that a correct statement, Deborah? I didn't like to see spas opening, frankly. I didn't like to see a lot of things happening, and I wasn't happy with it. And I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp. I wasn't at all happy because And I could have done something about it if I wanted to, but I'm saying let the governors do it. But I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp.
He's making it a point. If you haven't heard, he's not happy with Brian Kemp. And evidently, many of you aren't either. It's kind of an interesting debate. We did a non-scientific poll that we posted at mikeonline.com. Do you agree with President Trump that this is too early to open Georgia today? Or do you agree with Governor Kemp in making the decision to start opening salons and bowling alleys and tattoo parlors and sort of gradually starting to reopen the state? Well, according to our poll, latest results, 53% of you agree with President Trump that it's too early. 47% agree with Governor Kemp that it's just about right. Just an interesting kind of dynamic. And as Tom Tradup writes, we've done these things, all of these things, all the mitigation in the name of trying to reduce virus deaths. But we also, and let me inject here, and Kelly Loeffler said something yesterday that was pretty smart in supporting Georgia's decision to reopen. In the state of Georgia, they have thus far experienced 838 deaths. How many millions of people live in Georgia, guys? 838 fatalities in a state that has how many millions, please? 10.7 million people. Now, 838 deaths is horrific. I hate it. I can promise you 838 people in Georgia have died of many other causes. I saw somebody on TV last night say more people die from choking on their own food. Now, I don't think that applied to Georgia, but 838 deaths in a state of 10.7 million people. Governor Kemp is saying to shut down the state and destroy people's businesses and end people's livelihoods for 838 deaths for 10.7 million people. Listen, I'm terrible at math, but what's the percentage of Eric or Derek or somebody, Pavs, you want to take a crack at this? What's the percentage 838 into 10.7 million? Again, every one of those deaths is a family. Every one of those deaths is a person, is a mother, a father, a grandmother, a grandfather. I'm not trying to minimize 838 deaths. But I have to ask the question, as you rail against Governor Kemp and you think he's some kind of a screwball, I must ask you, do 838 deaths in a state of 10.7 million people, does that lead to a massive shelter in place, shut down, you may not leave your home, do not leave, or we're going to give you a ticket, or we're going to fly a drone over your house and we're going to come hunt you down like the mayor of Los Angeles wanted to? Governor Kemp is saying he thinks the data suggests that they can open. He believes the data is there. And the president, despite his dissatisfaction with Brian Kemp, and listen, that's President Trump. He's not going to hold back. He feels the way he feels. He doesn't agree. He wants to wait a little longer. If I had to guess, and I'm not guessing this based on any inside knowledge, this is just my hunch, I think President Trump would like us all to stay put for at least another couple of weeks. That's, to me, the president's position. You might think that's a reasonable position. You may think people can't hang on for 2 more weeks or 1 more week or 1 more day. It's a very difficult decision. All I ask is that you approach it in good faith.